Hello everyone, welcome to a new visual novel called No More Future. Essentially, you get brain cancer or some shit, and then you wake up, you're in the hospital, drown in existential agony, and then finally someone comes and helps you, yada 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 yada. You end up in a robot body, apparently. I don't know much more than that, because that's all the description said, really. Let's fucking get into this shit. Come on, fucking start, bitch. Story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance with animal people, real or imagined, is entirely coincidental. Of course it is. Story contains content that is not suitable to children of all ages or appropriate for those suffering with depression or suicidal thoughts. Viewer discretion is advised. There's your warning. A dimly lit hospital room in the midst of the fanciest hospital your family could afford. That's kind of redundant. You need to remove the hospital, a dimly lit room in the midst of the fanciest hospital your family could afford. Yeah, I know I'm nitpicking, but I'm a fucking writer, I can't help it. A simple bedroom, surrounded by gray walls and dusty curtains on all sides. Beyond the artificial barriers lie identical cubbies all around you. They're a bit livelier than yours. Well, as lively as they can be in a place like this anyway. There is no TV to watch as you wait, no games to play, no books to read, and no one to talk to. Your family's not allowed in as they prepare you for your next treatment. You can only listen to the others as they lament their woes with their loved ones, sobbing and crying while holding each other tight, whispering encouraging but ultimately empty words. You haven't paid attention to them for quite a while. It only makes you feel worse. You're sprawled on your bed within the discomfort of your sheets, tired and silent. Your eyes are red from all the tears, and the streaks they left in their wake on your cheeks are still visible hours later. The inside of your mouth is as dry as the nurses and doctors that seldom come your way to check up on you and remind you what you already know. You're a shipwreck, drifting off into the misty night, waiting for the waves to finally swallow you whole, however long it might take. Ah, that's a nice analogy. That's some nice metaphor shit. I like that, actually. You already know that all those treatments are meaningless, but that there's no saving you from yourself. Your family trusts in the treatments they're wasting their finances on. Praise whatever God is out there that he may listen to their plight. You who lays in this bed, who endures the cures, who deals with the nightmares that orbit your brain every day and every night. You outgrew hope long ago. So you lay there, alone and afraid, your body frozen as if encased in ice, your mind stuck in a loop. Over and over, you keep repeating to yourself the brutal truth you cannot run away from. You are going to die. Good evening. How are you doing today? Oh, it's a woman, okay. A woman suddenly appears right before you, stealthy as thunder in a storm. The sheer impact of her presence hitting you all at once in what might have been just the biggest scare. I fucking hate that sentence. That's so hyperbolic and pointless. It's not her unexpected arrival that jolts you from your dark thoughts, though. You've gotten used to people coming and going all the time in this forsaken place. Everything fell into a monotone routine after months of lodging here. No, what startles you is your voice, so much different from the nurses and doctors, so upbeat, so nonchalant, the glimmer of something barely hidden beneath the surface. Hardly appropriate given the circumstances. You give her a brief glance, how uninterested as you are. You almost fail to notice her lab coat, so markedly different from those of the local doctors. At least, you're fairly certain it's a lab coat. Under all those bright colors that look like splattered paint on a canvas, the rest of her attire doesn't exactly scream professionalism either, much like her attitude. You struggle to unravel her species. She most closely resembles a Siamese with beige fur all over her hands and neck, but she's also very much not one. You can't see her tail either, thanks to her coat. You wonder whether she even has one underneath that outfit. petite lady wanders around the small room, taking in this limited sights the place has to offer. An amused look in her face. Hello, you there? Come on, you aren't dead yet. You can still grace with a chat, can't you? Who the fuck are you? Ah, good, you can still speak. Hard to converse with someone who's already drowned in despair. I'm Dr. Shelley, but you can just call me Mary. I'm the head of the synthetic department over at Pandora Laboratories. I got a bunch more titles on my belt, but let's leave it at that for now. Really. Mary Shelley. Okay. Needless to say, I'm not associated with this institute or its staff in any way. I'm here as a visitor, and you're free to call Sakuriyami if I'm overstepping boundaries anyway. But I think you should hold that thought for now. We've only just started knowing each other, after all. Someone's words do indeed make your head spin, but not from their complexity. You've just become out of touch with any thoughts that don't revolve around your own self-fueling misery over the course of the last few months. Probably still be thinking about those if something about her connotations and delivery didn't catch your undivided attention. Pandora Laboratories. Synthetics. You remember these words, but forget their meaning and history. You have a feeling the latter one is especially important, but... So, sorry for asking this, but I just realized that I didn't have a chance to look up your name. The kids downstairs gave me your room, condition, and all that, but they never bothered to mention you by anything other than your number. And here I thought you were the ones working with robots. The lady's witty line, which does succeed at drawing a faint smile on your face almost makes you forget that she just admitted to illegally obtain your sensitive data. You should probably call security on this nut job so you can tell yourself at least. But you're not going to. Not just yet. You figure you should give this cat lady a piece of your mind first. Do the doctors around here give their patients information to strangers all the time, or is it just you? Yeah, that's kinda breach of HIPAA. That's illegal. Like, illegal. You only now knows how raspy and grave your voice has become. After all the sobbing and muffled cursing, it's definitely not fun to listen to, but the doctor laughs at your unfunny joke regardless. Ha! Shouldn't you be the one to know? For real. Let's just say I have my ways. Don't worry, I'm not going to use your private data to sell you kitchen-eyes or low-calorie smoothies. Like the workers here, I have standards. Knowing all that, will you tell me your name? You briefly wonder whether it's wise to share your name with a stranger you barely know like this, who still revealed so little of herself to you. In the end, however, you decide that privacy isn't the only thing you care about all that much anymore. Your name is... Huh. Interesting name, kiddo. Let's see that's name. Sorry. Same as ever, but this time it feels more distant, like an echo in a deep, dark cave before your suspicions. You ever notice how little of ourselves was chosen by us in this world? Our names, our genders, our sexualities, our bodies. We're born with them, and we're stuck with them until the day before she can finish, almost perceiving how frequent our heartbeats have become, she forcefully stops herself. Tense and just the mysterious, seductive tones that possessed up until upon first meeting you. Sorry. Didn't mean to go there. Sometimes I can't control myself and start rambling like that. What I meant to ask was, if you could start your life new and this time you could choose everything about yourself, including your name, would you keep it the same or would you change it? You try to process what you just heard in vain. The words bounce off your head as if you were talking in a foreign language. You understand what she's saying, but not what she's meaning. What sort of question is that? The interesting sort, wouldn't you agree? Women's strange questions cause some stir within your mind. You can't help but wonder what ultimate goal she may have within this surreal conversation. Even though you can't help yourself from indulging into it further, unwilling to return to the dread and emptiness that preceded it. So, what would it be? You would, huh? I suppose that after living so long with your name as become bigger on your identity as your actual personality. Or maybe it holds a deeper meaning to you, some fond memories associated with it. No need to tell me, by the way. I can tell just by your gaze. Either way, names are hardly the most important part of an individual. They're just there so we don't have to waste time soaring through countless faces and voices in our brains. I have issue with that. Names are very important. They're literally part of your identity. They form the basis of your fucking identity. You need your name to feel like you are a person. If you... I'm getting into psychology shit here. I'm sorry. I'm just glad I know what to call you when I report back to the labs. Okay, time out. Are you gonna tell me what's the point of this whole conversation? Or are you just gonna keep asking me weird questions like it's all standard procedure? Of course there's a point, and I was getting to it. Eventually is a tad too long a time frame for your... Oh, that's not me. That's not my character. Eventually is a tad too long time frame for your taste, especially when you still don't know what this talk's all about in the first place. I don't understand why you're doing this, or why I'm going along with it for that matter. Usually when people come visit, they talk about their lives or memories together, sometimes about the awful weather outside. And now you come along and start asking me all this strange stuff, saying all sorts of nonsensical things. It's not like your conversation so far is particularly unenjoyable. It was definitely out of the ordinary, that's for sure. However, given how little time you have left, answering this stranger's questions seems like an utterly pointless endeavor devoid of any and all meaning. Then again, isn't that true for all conversations you've had on this bed? You're the cat exhaling a deep, long sigh. Once again, you fall from the clouds and abruptly land in your uncomfortable bed. I understand, really. I know there's a lot going through your mind right now, and that you're not prepared for this conversation. But at the same time, I can't really afford to slow down with you. Not any longer than I have to, anyway. Time is of the essence. I've got places to be, people to talk to, and plenty of work to do. I don't have much time, and truth be told, she smirks as she tends to whisper something in your ear. I'm not even supposed to be here right now. But then, of course, you're in an even worse spot than me. There's no telling how much time you've left in this world, so you need to consider what you do with it wisely. We can use it to have some regular chit-chat in simple ways. I mean, I learned absolutely nothing. Or you could let me do my thing, even if it's a bit weird. And maybe we'll come out of this a little bit better than off when we started. What's it gonna be? A little bit better off. As if there's anything she could do to make you feel any less miserable right now. And again, it's not like you have a lot to lose by just letting her do her job. The alternative to this whole charade is lonely and uncomfortable silence after all. Still, it's weird she managed to answer all my questions so easily, even though I never asked her. Either she's extremely perceptive and good with what she does, or she can somehow read my mind. Just to be safe, better not think of anything inappropriate when she's around. All jokes aside, having pondered on it for long enough, you finally decide to answer the inquisitive Siamese. Fine. I guess I can answer a couple more questions if that's what it takes when you start making more sense. Nice. Trust me, you won't regret it. You're still a weirdo, though. We doesn't even scratch it, but I digress. So, last question then, as promised. What pronouns do you use? What pronouns? Are you kidding me? What does that even have to do with this? Like I said, no matter how this conversation goes, I'll need to file a report once I get back. Come to regulate Regulations require me to list your preferred pronoun somewhere in there. Something about avoiding potential lawsuits and things of the sort. If you ask me, it's a load of bullshit and yet more unnecessary paperwork, but what can you do? If you really don't want to answer, I can just write, no, it's fine. All things considered, I could have been far worse for sure. If you really have to use them, you can use. It's fucking here. Not even a second later, and the Simon's already finished typing that down. Gotcha, kid. I'll be sure to remember that. I'll let you to it. How many more surveys you want me to take before you finally tell me what in the world you're doing here? Usually people charge money to give their private info out like this, you know? Don't worry, you'll be compensated for the time you're lending me more than enough, trust me. And yes, as a matter of fact, we're done with the boring part. Now let's get to the real meat of the discussion, shall we? Well, there's a point to all this. I was starting to think you were asking me all these questions for shits and giggles. Oh, you bet. How about this? The one leans over the railing of the bed, a sly smile on her lips. You can't help but feel slightly uncomfortable with how near to you she is. Have you ever heard of synthetics? You definitely didn't expect her to ask that question. Not with that excited over the moon face anyway. And again, she mentions these synthetics. You try to scrounge up the little info you have in them off the top of your head, but you wonder why the fine female seems so interested in them. I think I heard about them once. Maybe on the war video news or somewhere on the web. Can't say I know the topic all that well, though. It's what we developed over Pandora. Well, one of the many things we develop. The most recent one, and quite possibly... I'm losing myself. Let me start again over. Synthetics are bionic constructs made out of both organic parts, artificially made of course, and mechanical ones. To put it simply, they're humanoid androids, built to resemble and operate as if they were real human. So basically they're just artificial bodies for Ls, with extra steps. That sounds impressive. The technology's been out, that doesn't sound all that impressive. The technology's up for a few decades at least. It has, hasn't it? I would know. We were the ones who first came up with it, after all. They were? They were, now you remember. Pandora Laboratories, yes, that Pandora. The one that's either all over the news or only spoken about in hushed tones. The sort of super corporation that strikes fear and awe even in the heart of someone so very close to death. Technology's been there for quite a while indeed. For Al's at least. Sure, we've been able to house artificial intelligences and artificial bodies for decades, but what about real intelligences? Wait, real what now? There's no way you heard that right, you reason, and yet the cat continues with her spiels if you did. Human bodies aren't built to last, as you're clearly well aware. Over the course of your lives, we lose our youth, our beauty, sometimes our limbs, our sanity, and ultimately we're doomed to lose ourselves. But machines, they don't suffer from the same issues. They can continue to operate on and on and on. Repairing them is way faster, cheaper, and easier. What if we could just transfer our consciousness into one? That is what synthetics are truly for. This is so fucking SOMA. What the fuck? This is so fucking SOMA. Well, that escalated quickly. You can't help but chuckle as you try to process all the woman has shared with you so far. Right. Out of curiosity, how much alcohol did you drink on the way here? The cat evades your sudden jab with the finesse of a cheetah. Interesting question. I'd say about half a cup worth of vodka, mixed with a little bit of lemon juice and garlic chips. Yeah, that sounds about garlic chips. Hey, don't judge my taste. I'll have you know I perfected my secret brew over many decades of experimentation. Sounds like a lot of time for trial and error. Mostly error, given her description. Suddenly you wish the two of you were just a little bit more spread out from each other. Then again, even at this distance, you can't smell anything, good or bad, coming from her. Maybe she's pulling your leg. Regardless, well, as fun as this conversation's been so far, I can't help but feel that, you're kind of insane. Fun kind, but insane nonetheless. For sure, if anyone could attempt a project like this, it'd be Pandora, but you're confident not even they could successfully pull this off. allowing people to transfer their minds onto a circuit board, escape death, live forever. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction. As you're about to relay your thoughts onto the ever-calm cat, she reaches into her coats in her pocket looking for something. Eventually she finds whatever it is she's looking for and turns to face you yet again. Here, take a look at our latest models. Just like that, Mary hands you an immaculate tablet with a screen larger than your face. The image of a lizard-esque robot laying motionless within what looks like a complex tube contraption immediately catches your full attention. At the very least, the doctor isn't lying about the construct's existence. It's definitely unlike any robot you've ever seen. Its shape, anatomy, the way the joints are seamlessly connected with one another. It really does look like there's an actual human in front of you. Mechanical parts and unorthodox design aside, of course. It almost looks like a giant lizard, or maybe a wingless dragon with its sinuous body, powerful-looking limbs, and long tail. What truly catches your attention, however, is its face, or rather its eyes, which are replaced with an LED-like visor that doesn't let you see beyond its cold black exterior. Without even thinking about it, you make a swiping motion at the screen with your finger, revealing another image right after it. Yet more of what you've already seen, an image of the prototype taken from a different angle. It's not much, but it's enough to prod your interest even further. You keep flicking your fingers on the screen, moving from image to image at ludicrous speed. Ludicrous speed! Go! There are dozens, no hundreds of them. There are different models, some that even look more mammalian than reptilian, and some of the photos were even taken in completely different environments than the first. The more you see, the more certain you become. These images weren't faked. This isn't some sort of elaborate prank, and Mary over there isn't lying to you. As ridiculous as it seems, synthetics do exist. Put down the towel for a moment and turn to face Mary, whose large smile betrays her pride and confidence to her work. You wonder how long she's been looking at you like that while you peruse the tablet. After a few seconds spent reorganizing your thoughts, you finally manage to ask the million-dollar question. But do they work? She chuckles at your question as if she already knew you were going to ask. A few more slides to the right, if you will. You do as I'm instructed, and what waits makes your heart skip a beat. A video of one of those machines walking around on its hind legs, ordering coffee from a vending machine, seemingly without a care in the world. Cheerfully drinks the hot beverage alongside what looks like a researcher of some kind, conversing amicably with them, just like a human would. What a strange voice it has. It's a little different from a human's, but you can't tell how. Regardless, somehow it just feels human. The way it speaks, its tone, its emotion. This isn't an AI. At least not a C grade or even a B grade. This is on a completely different level from anything you've ever experienced. So that's a human inside that synthetic. Our first real success after decades of experimentation and prototyping. So what do you think? Unbelievable, am I right? Unbelievable indeed. Yet it's right there in front of your eyes. A dream, a vision taking shape and form. Although you lack all the pieces of the puzzle, you start to feel a faint light of hope beginning to shine within your mind once more. Yet, the pragmatic side of your brain still isn't fully convinced. It laughs and scoffs at what it sees, ever so reluctant to relinquish the fear and despair it has gotten so used to. So you want to stuff me inside one of those shiny walking computers? You seem to catch on to things quickly. The way she chuckles at your remarks and strange vibes coursing down your spine. The cat seems to enjoy oversimplifying her work and explanations, far more than most professionals like her you've ever met. You're not sure how to take this intriguing quality of hers. Why? What do you have to gain? Lots and lots of valuable data. Not much beyond that, really. Like I said, we're still testing this technology, and we're rather interested to see what effects your new living quarters will have on you, among other things. This seems a little too suspicious. Where's the catch? How much will you make me pay for this? The woman explodes in somewhat controlled but still loud burst of laughter, drawing weird looks from the cubbies around you. You feel a hot wave of embarrassment brush over your face, causing you to retreat even further into your bed. But Mary doesn't even seem fazed by all the bad looks and side eyes at all. It's free, kiddo. Doesn't get much better than that, does it? You get a sweet new bod free of charge, and we get to study you from afar and gather all the intel we need. That's the gist of it, really. It does sound rather appealing indeed, but that can't be all. There's no way something as revolutionary, as world-changing, as life-saving as this would require so little sacrifice on your end. Your intuition keeps insisting the doctor still has a few baits hidden in the murky waters of her proposition. Is that all? Huh? I said, is that really all? You spot Mary biting the corner of her lip, failing to conceal the doubt that has overtaken her. You properly settle yourself in the bed to better meet her gaze. It's difficult to tell for sure, but for the first time that you've met her, she seems unsure. It's not, is it? What else aren't you telling me? Kat sighs in a vain attempt to make her stress vanish from her face. She probably thought it was worth a shot. She can't bring herself to look you in the eyes as she finally answers your relentless inquiry. Yeah, no, you're right. There is a catch. She hesitates to elaborate. You can only wait, silent but restless, as she ponders how best to explain herself. We don't know if it works. Huh? We aren't sure if the transition, as we call it, works as intended, or at all for that matter. What? This makes no sense. But you can't be serious. You showed me that video, that robot, synthetic, whatever it is. They were talking, moving, drinking like a real person. But are they a real person? Or are they just a highly advanced AI mimicking a real person? No, believing they were a real person. Welcome to SOMA, everybody. Get ready to get existentially traumatized. Woo! Of that, we're still in the dark. That's ridiculous. How can you not know whether it's actual people you put in those toasters? The tone of your voice is steadily rising, earning a few more stares from the people around you. You don't know whether they're actually following the conversation, and you don't care. You can barely feel their judging stares in your frail and meekly body anyway. It's not so simple. The process we're using to transfer people's consciousness into the machines, the transition, it's completely unlike anything humanity has ever conceived. Possibly hard to explain too. Hell, not even I know all the details, and I'm the bloody chief. But the gist of it is this. We're not actually putting people in toasters, not even their brains. Even if they could survive in there, and the time they would rot as well, would just be prolonging the inevitable by 10, 20 years at most. And that's not what we set out to do. The only thing we're trying to transfer from a human into a synthetic is their consciousness, their ego, their soul, their humanity. Something that could, theoretically, survive the death of its host. And I don't mean that in the famous people live forever way, I'm being very literal here. Of course, that requires such a thing actually exists, but there is more to our bodies than flesh and bones that they're made out of. There's more to our personalities than mere electric signals coursing through our neurons. That's why we collect all the data post-transition, to try and figure this riddle out. To answer one of life's greatest questions, the existence of human souls. The existence of human souls. Now that's something you never suspected a super corporation to research, not even to an end as wacky as this. It's one of those questions you always wanted to answer to, but never thought you'd actually be able to answer. You ask yourself what you think the answer is, almost as if on reflex, but soon perished thought is merely beginning that senseless endeavor, sends cold, twitching shivers down your spine, akin to when you first learned of your condition. You try to silence that malicious feeling in vain, hoping you can simply forget it as if it never existed. And yet, all attempts at processing the information presented to you end up there, with you pondering your own mortality, coming to terms with the expiration date placed on you by your brain, wondering whether there's anything you can do to alter it. You'd resign yourself to your fate, for there was nothing more science could do to help you. But now this new opportunity presented itself, restoring a faint spark of hope within your heart, only for it to flicker and disappear as quickly as it rose. So, it's a gamble. You're betting on your transition or whatever to actually do its job and save me. Betting my life on it. Oh, I'm not betting anything. You are. I'm just giving you a chance. It's up to you whether to take it or not. But think about it this way: if you don't accept my offer, you're guaranteed to die 100%. I'm given a brief look at your file. You had good reason to look as gloomy as you did when I first saw you. You know what lies ahead better than I do. It's not going to be pretty. But if you accept my offer, who knows what might happen? Maybe you'd still die, but nothing will have changed. And nothing will change, or maybe, just maybe, you'll become one of the first humans to ever cheat death itself. You don't know what to think anymore. You feel your heartbeat increasing with every passing moment as you consider the woman's words. Be honest, what are my chances? It's a binomial test, really. Either you survive or you don't. We can spend all day theorizing your likelihood of success, but that's about it. Theorizing. Your actual chances, either 100% or 0%, depending on the truth. A coin toss. It's a coin toss. This is way too SOMA. This is way too SOMA to not be inspired, at least somewhat. Oh my god. The mad scientist's face now looms mere inches away from yours, her sharp pupils staring straight into yours. You find it impossible to evade her gaze no matter how hard you try. I'm not really supposed to say this, but if I were you, I'd totally risk it. There's no reason not to, really. Mathematically speaking, of course. That's what you were thinking too. Can't deny that your chances of survival, assuming there's any in the first place, are higher with her plan than without. Yet still, the strange nagging feeling at the back of your head keeps bothering you the wrong way. I just can't understand. Why me? There's countless people, some even in this room, who deserve a second chance at life more than I do. I suppose you're right in a way. You suppose? I do. Tell me what, you want me to give it to you straight? She smiles cheekily at you, almost as if laughing at a joke she's yet to tell. I picked a folder at random from her locker, and it happened to be yours. You can't be serious. What, you were expecting some sort of careful consideration? Or maybe a more routine, heavily scrutinized roulette? Please. I happened to pass by and decided I'd look for a new test subject here. I chose a folder at random and it happened to be yours. That's about it, really. You almost puke at her explanation, disgusted by the sheer randomness of it all. This is so messed up. Oh, really? I beg to disagree. Tell me, do you believe in fate? Destiny, and the idea that all our actions are preordained by God, the universe, or something else beyond understanding? Yeah, another ridiculous out of the blue question, but you feel like you've gotten used to it by now. Answering one more of these senseless enigmas won't hurt your reason. I don't. Well, what do you know? Looks like I'm not the only one. Honestly, the idea of someone or something else choosing everything for us for you is just so defeatist, don't you think? But that's besides the point. The point being that it doesn't matter why or how I chose you. I did, and now you have to make your choice of your own, whether to accept my offer or not to. That's just the way it is. I still can't wrap my head around this. It's really not that complicated. Destiny or no destiny, you now have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity before you. Quite literally, if I add. Only you can choose whether to take it or not. But why me? Why do I get this opportunity, not anyone else? Probably be shouting at the top of your lungs now if only your throat could afford that. Instead, you just whisper harshly at the cat lady, your words half dying before even leaving your mouth. Why me, not a child who suffers from my same condition? Some probably even know it worse than I do. Mary stands motionless by the side of your bed, once more incapable of meeting your gaze. Not even her cool facade can hide the pain and discomfort she feels as she listens to your heavy, heartfelt words. If children's are a no-go, there's still countless people who've done more to earn this than I did. People who've dedicated their lives to saving others, to help those in need, who've got something bigger than them worth living for, who've deserved a second chance time and again. And yet, they're all going to die, all the same. Death will claim their lives despite their achievements and dreams, just as it will yours. Only now do you realize the sheer insanity of it all, of dreaming, of hoping, of living. All for what? For it all to just end like that, without so much as a warning. You recall your younger cousin who dreamed of being an astronaut going to space ever since he was old enough to speak. His parents, your uncles, you've always tried to rein him in because it was never going to work out. Your other uncles who've taught you ever since you were little to do good and be nice to others so that God may smile upon you. Your mother, only a few months ago, was yelling at you to get your act together and start thinking about the future. All the things you were promised, the foundations you spent your whole life so far building, step by step, brick by brick, in anticipation for what's to come. Only now do you realize how pointless it all was, when all it took was one odd turn of the wind to make it all crumble to dust. Life is so fucking unfair. You cry your heart out like you never have before, so much that it physically hurts. Every tear that comes streaming down hurts you like a knife wound. You gasp for air like a newborn, slowly, continuously, painfully. You probably look like a maniac right now, finally befitting the madhouse that surrounds you, but you don't care. It doesn't matter. Nothing does. Nothing ever did. And the realization hurts you more than the cancer ever could. Mary looks away for a moment, lost in thought, melancholic. She doesn't seem to know what to say. Perhaps she's contemplating leaving you to your fate, to run away for the sorry mess she made. You wouldn't blame her. You'd get away from yourself too if only you could. And yet she remains, silent, immobile, contemplating, pondering over something you can't quite grasp. Beyond the liquid curtain that veils your gaze, she remains bold and stoic, like a pillar holding the madness that is the ceiling from falling on top of you. You stare at her intently as your body trembles, your lips freeze, your eyes almost go blind from all the crying. With nothing left to do, you wait for her to do something. You wait, and wait, and wait. Until suddenly she turns to face you yet again, an almost malevolent smile on her face. Life is fucking unfair, isn't it? Come on, you're right to say it. It's true. Nobody will admit it, but it's true. You work and work and work, and all for what? For life to slap you in the face and call you a bitch? Piling problems upon problems on your back until it breaks? What did you do to deserve this? What did we do? What's life punishing us for exactly? For existing? For daring to try and live against all odds? Doesn't it make you mad? Doesn't it make your blood boil? All those years of studying and working and doing all you can to live a meaningful life, and this is how nature repays you? With brain cancer? You feel a need to reply, but you cannot bring yourself to utter a word. The cat is laying all your thoughts out for you in full display, and your heartbeat doesn't seem to care from which body these sentiments are coming from. The people around you raise their heads, wondering what all the commotion's about, but you can hardly notice them anymore, fully enamored with your spiel as you are. All your sadness, all your regrets, all your despair, they all lie before you in their graceless glory, taunting you with their unbridled power, and they do make you mad. You know what I want to do? I want to shove my big furry fist up nature's ass. Show the whole world we don't have to bow down to it anymore, that we don't have to play by its rules if we don't want to. And I know you want the same thing. That's why I'm here, because you want me here. And you try to deny yourself this opportunity by bringing other people into this, but we both know what you really want. You don't want others to steal this opportunity from you. You want to take it. You want to rebel against nature just as much as I do. You're just waiting for someone to give you their permission to do so, to help you feel like you deserve this. Well, here I am. I want you to do this. I want you to reclaim what is rightfully yours. I'll give you my first and final bullet, our only shot at immortality. It falls on you to make it count. It's time for humanity to rise up against nature, to finally claim our lives as our own. And if you want to be there when that happens, if you feel like you deserve more than what nature handed you. She reaches into her pocket and slowly takes out a large bundle of papers, thicker than an encyclopedia, and plops it into your lap with a big, all-knowing grin on her face. You'll sign these papers. The rest of your memories of those dark days aren't as clear. The more you try to remember, the more details escape your grasp. In your head, what should be a simple sequence of actions and events. I'll die either way. What difference does it make to you? Dates. Alex, I swear to God, don't do this to me. Places. Ignore the crowd, just rest and relax. We'll take care of them. People. The tumor's progressed even faster than we thought. We'll need to speed up our preparations and fast. Everything clashes together into a maddened amalgam, devoid of substance or purpose. Does it even matter anymore? You've made your choice and you'll die with it. There is one moment you recall, though. One perfect photo of your last moments forever melded into your very soul, its details crystal clear even now. You recall a dark room, hidden far beneath the earth. You recall many faces staring down at you from the windows all around, either working on computers or merely watching as you drew your last breaths. You recall a deep mist, cold and damp, stalking in the corners of the room, sometimes even seeping through the glass you were looking through to tickle your skin and chill the blood in your veins. No, that last part can't be right. You were in a laboratory, not a haunted mansion. And yet, in those final moments, perceiving reality for what it truly was became quite a challenge. Or perhaps reality simply lost its touch on you, its power, in favor of something else. That, or you were simply going insane. Cold quickly became unbearable. It felt like walking to a blizzard wearing nothing but a bikini. You'd probably have laughed at that silly image had you been capable of it, despite the temperature outside. The inside of your throat was coarser than a desert. You weren't going to last long. It was painfully obvious by now. You could lose consciousness for the final time any second, and each time you realized you could feel at an inexorable moment inching closer and closer. Distractions. You needed to find some distractions. You reached for it with your finger as much as your body would allow and touched the thin but sturdy glass that now separated you from the tenebrous room before you. It was remarkably warm to the touch for some reason. You felt the urge to leap forward and hug that glass with everything you had, wrapping every limb at your disposal around it as tightly as you could. But after much struggling against your mattress, you were forced to settle with just your finger. Pathetic, and how ironic too. Only now you realize the absurdity of your decisions. You traded your bed in the hospital for a coffin in a laboratory. You couldn't help but chuckle at the thought, as much as your body allowed you to anyway. It was more of a deep, raucous cough than anything else. Perhaps even more ironically, you thought that one ridiculous decision was probably the best you'd ever made too. Not like it saved it from also being the stupidest. As you thought that, a friendly face peered down at you from beyond the glass of the capsule you were encased in. She'd never left your side that day, and she made a promise not to do so even now. Someone's in a good mood. That's good. They do say laughter is the best medicine. I would know. I take the piss out of my friends all the time, and look at me now, as happy as an apple. You'd feel the anxiety of the situation take its toll on the feline as well as you. From what little time the two of you spent together, you gathered she usually told much better jokes than these. Realizing that her efforts at praising your morale weren't helping all that much, the doctor suddenly decided to change her approach with a few coughs to gather your attention. She turned to speak to you in a much quieter tone. Well, this is it. A couple more minutes of waiting, then it's all or nothing. How do you feel, kid? You made as if to answer, but you were too weak even to mutter the simplest of words. In the end, your hushed answers couldn't pierce the glass between you two as much as they tried. Nevertheless, she laughed as she peered into your sickly eyes, a few steps away from total oblivion. Right, nervous, huh? I get that. Can't say I blame you. I'd be freaking out too were I in there with you right now. Her smile darkened someone who was pondering on the eventuality, but all of this may have been in vain. It only lasted for a second. When she finally turned to face you again, her face was as confident as ever, perhaps even more than you'd ever seen her. As she leaned forward to touch the glass with her hand, right above your finger, she stretched up high. She stretched up high as it was. Still stretched up high as it was, she began speaking. Her tone was firm but fond, and her every word was beamed with an immeasurable degree of pride and confidence. In a way, she was like family in that moment, the mother or father you desperately wish were by your side. I'll tell you what I told all the others. You're going to get through this, I know you will. You're going to win this battle for all of us, and I'll be here cheering you on every step of the way. Oh, and you can bet we're throwing a party when you wake up too. There's gonna be cake, soda, maybe a little alcohol, and all the weird party games that I know nothing about that you can imagine. She couldn't help but laugh at her own remark, stupid as it was. You laughed at it too, in your mind at least. It was a nice thought to go to sleep on. You best not ditch your own party, Alex. Know what I mean? You nodded as best she could. You weren't going to miss that party. Of that you were sure. And if you were truly doomed not to attend, you'd still give death an ass-kicking for the ages trying to get there. The feline's ears perked up as she heard something you couldn't quite make up. She looked out into the balcony up top, where colleagues and assistants were preparing the machines for the procedure, and gave them a thumbs up. She then turned back to face you one last time. She got up from her improvised seat in your tube. Right, better get going now. It's just about time. I'll see you on this side, kid. Don't keep me waiting too long. You then felt something tickle your nose like a feather brushing right into your nostrils. Then the gentle smell of honey and sugar overtaking you from within. You felt your hand, now devoid of all strength, fall limp on your chest as your eyes rolled upward and your eyebrows shut tight. What? Your eyebrows? What? After that, you felt nothing at all. Spend some time. Oh. You recalled that fateful afternoon and the nightmares that followed, for what must have been the 20th time now. 2 weeks have passed since your transition, and you still can't wrap your head around everything that happened since. It still doesn't make any sense. None of this does. Your life certainly hasn't been the same since it ended. Supposedly ended, anyway. That sure was a sentence you never imagined yourself saying. Though to be fair, these aren't circumstances you ever imagined to find yourself in either. When you woke up in this new half-robotic body, it felt like you just won the lottery. Surely, the transition succeeded. So desperately wanted to believe, but it wasn't that simple. You try to metaphorically wave these thoughts away. You're tired of reminiscing, especially on memories as bitter as these. You've got bigger concerns in your mind now. The ride to new relay is short, and at least so far an eventful one. The mag train is fast and rather quiet, at least on the inside. You wait for anyone who might accidentally find themselves too close as it darts around the countryside without a care in the world. Not like there's many people around at this time of day. It's already 6:30 in the morning after all. Only the foolish, the desperate, and those who cannot feel tired anymore like you are awake at this hour. The sun hasn't fully popped out the clouds and hangs low on the horizon, giving the sky some lovely reddish hues you never got the chance to see before in your life. The clouds themselves curl and twist on the horizon, morphing every minute into something different as the sun covers their white canvases with its red and yellow lights like an artist. The cold morning breeze blows past the window, and not just due to the train cutting the air in two with its passage. A shame you can't open the glass and feel it on your skin. It'd certainly make the moment even more memorable. It's such a shame you think that views like this are only available so early in the day. Though perhaps that's precisely why they feel so precious. What a silly thought that was. After all, you no longer need to sleep or even rest. You can see the sun rising from the horizon any day you want. Now, the only thing you need for that is an alarm clock. Certainly you could do that, but maybe you shouldn't, you realize. It probably ruined the magic a little too soon. A warning comes over the intercom. You're about 5 minutes away from new relay, it would seem. You've still got some time to waste as you travel to your destination. Better make the most of it. Tired of gazing through the immaculate glass, you take a brief look around the train for what must have been the 5th time so far. You're no stranger to trains, but you aren't as used to traveling long distances as you'd like. You quickly got accustomed to the ins and outs of the system all the way back in high school, but it turns out that planning a trip to New Relay isn't any more complex than going to school used to be back then. It's certainly not as exciting as all the posters plastered around the train station marketed it as, but it's quite alright. You do have to admit, though, it's every bit as fast as it's marketed as. The seats definitely look much comfier than they truly are, though even you can feel it. You're made of steel and carbon, and presumably other stuff you can't be bothered to remember. It doesn't bother you, necessarily, not much anyway. Deactivating the pain receptors in your lower body dealt with the problem pretty well, pretty fast. You'll always be grateful to Mary for teaching you how to do it yourself, as soon as she could. It's one of those life hacks that you would always wish you had as a human, that and infinite money. This does make you wonder, though. If even you can feel it, how does a human deal with it? You rattle all over as you try to imagine how the average commuters behind must have thought after decades of enduring such abuse. To distract yourself, you focus on other things around you. The seats are all painted a really nice color, for one. Looks wonderful in this lovely early morning light. The windows are remarkably clean, too. You always thought public transportation was the definition of unsanitary, but maybe that's just a Bloomberg thing. You never were too preoccupied with cleanliness, unlike those two uncles of yours, but when you can't see past the foot from a window because of all the grime, then you start to have a problem. You know, the floor too is... God, it's so lonely in here. The more you try to distract yourself, the more you realize that there aren't any people around to be distracted by. There's not a single passenger in your wagon beside you. Some tried getting in the back at the station, but they all left as soon as you arrived. You can't help but feel that the other carriages are a little more packed than usual. All because of you. I thought it wouldn't bother me, but it just feels so surreal. Never thought I'd say this out loud, but I really wish I had someone to... Were you expecting some passengers to materialize out of nowhere by chance? Now all too familiar, quite annoying voice with emotion nor accent reminds you of your feeble hopes. It doesn't come from your left or right, up or down, from any physical location around you. Rather, it feels more like a second set of thoughts speaking right beside your own. A very intrusive set of second thoughts. I would advise you against hoping to be approached by anyone until you've arrived at the new relay station, Alex. You should know, the odds of a human using an ability to teleport within this very carriage, as it's moving, are next to none. Unsurprisingly, if I might add. You sigh as you try and come up with a witty line to reply to the sarcastic voice in your head with. Well, they do say hope's the last to die. A fact Alex learned the hard way. The AI's weak attempts at dark humor, hit a little too close to home for your liking. Hey, don't talk about me as if I'm dead. My apologies, but I'm not talking about you, Alex. I'm talking about Arthur. Her voice is low, quiet even, and it has thunderous powers enough to shake the very wagon under your feet. Shut the hell up. Understood. After a few moments of near-perfect silence, you sprawl your strained body in your seat to allow some semblance of relaxation. Bother. An annoying B grade Mary insisted on installing your spine, or the closest synthetic equivalent, has proven itself time and again to be more trouble than it is worth. Between his attempts at helping, if you can call it that without being asked, his impolite and oftentimes downright offensive remarks, his jokes. You've truly had enough of your new cybernetic assistant. Mary tried to convince you to give it a couple more days, but you were adamant it had to go today. In the end, she obliged without much convincing needed on your end. You can say a lot of things about that lunatic, but at the very least, she's always eager to lend you a hand. So now you're on a train, a new relay once again. 3 days after your official public release, your open beta as some nerdy research that Pandora addressed it. You didn't think you'd be returning to the lab so soon after leaving, but what can you do? I can only hope your stay won't be as long as last time. You are phasing out once more, I take it. You appear to do that more and more often lately. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Gonna start judging me for that too? Yes, I will. You exhale another gust of air, defeated. Just a pointless act it is. Breathing in and out are now merely actions you do at a whim, not automatic processes that dictate your life and death. And yet, sighing when stressed or disappointed is just one of those tics you've learned in life that will haunt you for the rest of eternity, it seems. Well, there's not a whole lot to do in this empty carriage, is there? I'd browse the web or play some game, but I have to go through you to do that. It's not my fault you still haven't learned how to do that on your own. Considering it's your job to teach me how to do it, it literally is. Anyway, I could still manage the Web Explorer app if you're bored. Don't you dare say it like that. Trying to pretend like you wouldn't interrupt me midway through a video and tell me something random. Tell me some random facts about llamas or something. Some very important facts on llamas, thank you. That forum I found was quite adamant about it. Or shut down the game I'm playing 5 minutes after starting because I'm damaging my eyes. I am merely sharing expert medical advice in an effort to prolong your lifespan, Alex. I don't even have eyes anymore. That doesn't mean you shouldn't take care of them. The sound that comes out of your mouth next is borderline inhuman. You're not going to make another date with this mistake of science around. Of that you're sure. Luckily, the sound that comes out of the train speaker next is far more audible to the ears, with its pre-recorded feminine timbre remind you that the famed metropolis is just around the corner. Thank goodness. Friendly reminder to not leave any luggage behind on the train. Arthur, we both know I literally brought nothing with me. Just trying to look out for you. You decide that we've wasted enough time arguing with this brainless AI, and you're ready to leave as soon as the doors open. Thankfully, it only takes a few moments for the familiar shadow of the station to come into view behind the glass windows, followed soon after by the train's brakes working their magic beneath the carriage. You pray the rest of the day will go by a little faster than your morning did. When the doors open, it really feels like you've stepped into a different reality. Compared to Bloomberg, still stuck someplace between the past and the present, New Relay feels like a city decidedly projecting to the future, train station included. Though parts of it are just the same as they were 100 years ago, its ancient architecture preserved for the sake of prosperity, the impact of progress on it is undeniable. Sun shines through the glass roof on the platforms below, basking the area in a warm red light. Every step forward onto the delicate but sturdy flooring beneath you emits a sound not all too dissimilar from the high notes of a piano. Which is surprising considering how many hundreds of pounds you're carrying in that new body of yours. Raph expected the floor to creak and even shatter under your weight the other day, but clearly not even a tank rolling around could damage this sturdy, impenetrable flooring. The hedges that adorn the boarding platform require a soothing blue tinge at this time of day, yet another new sight for your eyes. They were originally put there, you seem to recall, to help separate the queues near the train doors so that less people would walk near the edge of the platform. You imagine that plenty at the time mocked the idea without a second thought, but it's hard to argue with the results. Their mere presence appears to be enough to instill the passengers some semblance of order in the chaos of the morning rush. In the distance, on the other side of the platform, you can see a large hollow board, tinged in whites and light blues, highlighting a list of incoming and outgoing trains for all to see. A plethora of small projectors, most of them smaller than your fingers, hang from the ceiling above, changing color, potency, and angle as dictated by the station's personal AI, whose boring, malish voice you hear from time to time. You'd still take it over Arthur, though, no questions asked. Rude. Just stating facts, friend. Friend zone to boot. Truly the worst day of my non-life. Either way, it may be way more sophisticated than the regular digital boards. than our large LED screens are used to, but that doesn't mean that the hollow board is necessarily more accurate, as you're already well aware of. You're about 10 minutes behind on schedule, and certainly not due to the clean weather. Looks like even all the advantages of modernity can make the trains arrive on time. As you're busy pondering these things and taking in the sights of the always mesmerizing building, you start to notice some oddities hanging around the place. Small lights seem to linger, both on surfaces and in midair, spread all over the place without rhyme or reason, sometimes even slowly floating around as if possessed by a will of their own. Arthur? What is it? I'm not imagining all these little light orbs flying around, am I? Of course not. A quick analysis shows that they're small bugs in your visible feedback system caused by satellite interference. Wait, you already know all that just from a quick analysis? How long have you known of this bug exactly? Since approximately 2 hours and 47 minutes after activation, Alex. And you didn't say anything. I figured that since you didn't mention it, despite its clear visibility, it meant that you were pleased with the anomaly's manifestation. That, or you were blissfully unaware of it. You know, like a moron. Truly a masterpiece of science and innovation, as well as common sense. Though annoyance with Arthur aside, you have to admit, those small, cute little wisps definitely do play their part in giving the place this wonderful, eye-catching atmosphere. You never saw anything like this back when you were human, not by a long shot. It's a small addition, but it already feels like a whole new way of viewing reality. The closest thing you can compare it to is fireflies dancing in the night above a flowery meadow. Something you never saw yourself, mind you, but if all those ebooks and movies you watch are correct, then this is probably how it's supposed to look. You wouldn't be able to tell either way. Fireflies haven't been spotted in the American countryside for a couple decades at least. Some even speculate that they're extinct by now. Maybe it's not the right moment to start thinking about depressing stuff like that. Speaking of, back to priorities. It's almost 7 a.m., that's not too late, I think. You still have plenty of time before your appointment at the labs. At least a few more hours if Mary can be trusted, which you hope she can. You figure that you can hang around the place for a while, maybe explore around for a bit, but you didn't have a chance to do so the last time. As you're walking around the place, too focused on sightseeing to really care about anything else going on around you, you spot a vending machine hanging out by the stairs. Its glass almost glistens from within, highlighting the many snacks and drinks for sale and the sparkly colors and cool designs with which it's decorated. It doesn't fail to lure you in. You don't feel thirsty or hungry, mind you. This body no longer needs to eat or drink to sustain itself. However, you still remember how it feels to crave food and water. That hole that always appeared in the back of your throat, clawing at you from inside, aching to be filled. You're not sure why, but in the end, you walk to the back of the short queue behind the machine and peacefully await your turn. As you ponder over this strange feeling, you can still eat and drink whatever you want. Standard food and beverages still produce calories that can be absorbed by your body, providing a minuscule amount of energy for your systems. The rest, the waste, gets safely dumped into the stream of fuel that courses through your veins, which does most of the heavy lifting to keep you up and running. Still, you're technically wasting your time and Pandora's money by purchasing something here, not to mention the contents of the vending machine. So, why are you here? Why are you still doing this? Alex, it's your turn. The AI's monotone voice intrudes once more into your thoughts, almost making you jump from the scare. You think up a reply hastily, almost automatically. I mean, there's not anymore anyway. All the people that used to be in the queue before you are now standing at least 5 feet away or so from you, and more keep on coming by the dozens. You're basically surrounded by people all pointing their phones straight at you, the lights near their cameras turned on. You take a look at them as they lie in the middle of the platform, motionless as if utterly petrified by your mere presence. Shock, confusion, awe, fear. A flora of different reactions spread across different ages, species, and genders. The hairs of those who have them all stand up at once as you gaze upon them, and so do the feathers of the few aliens that are in the crowd. And though their scales aren't exactly very telling when you imagine the reptiles share their fears as well, the situation is definitely strange, very unsettling. You try to reason with the crowd as best you can. Is this really necessary? The collective gasp follows your inquiry as the onlookers take a few steps back and begin to whisper amongst each other. You didn't have to run off like that, you know. I could just wait my turn, it's not really a big deal. Get more of the same, it seems. Nobody seems very interested to talk to you as much as they are in talking about you. You're starting to feel a little uncomfortable thanks to all the stares and the hushed mutterings. It's not a hostile environment per se, but it's certainly not a welcoming one either. You begin to question whether your request for refreshments is truly worth all the hassle. After giving it some thought, you eventually decide that the stares of the passers-by don't unsettle you nearly as much as the lack of soda in your life right now. It's not your fault they're reacting this way, you reason. You understand where they're coming from, in another world, perhaps you'd even be amongst their ranks yourself. But you can't let their worries and fears get in the way of you enjoying your life. Now it's finally back in your hands. Confidently, you approach the vending machine amidst the gas and murmurs of the nearby onlookers. There's so many pretty-looking things to choose from. Simple crackers, chocolate for desserts, spicy mini pizzas, fruit juices, fizzy drinks. The whole world, or at least very least the dispenser, is your oyster. Or it would be if the prices on half of the stuff weren't so unbelievably high. $6 for a pack of multi-flavored domino cakes? That's insane. Friendly reminder: you have a weekly $500 budget, entirely paid for by Pandora, and you are currently $500 away from depleting it. Oh sure, let me just make terrible spending decisions that just because I'm an android and a mega corporation pays for everything anyway. Great idea. Yes, it is a great idea. Okay, maybe it is a good idea. You certainly could get away with it. And Mary did insist that it was fine for you to buy something to earn from time to time. However, at the same time, it's someone else's money you're throwing around like candy, and this arrangement probably won't last forever. You should be cautious of establishing any nasty habits right now that might bite you in the back later. Though there's also an argument to be made that, specifically because this won't last forever, you should be taking advantage of this opportunity while you can. Besides, it's not like Pandora went out of money or anything. Screw it, I'm going all out, nobody can stop me. After much deliberation, you settle on the deadly combo of some bacon-scented crackers and a small bottle of orange-flavored energy drink. You definitely wouldn't try anything close to this back when you were human, but now that you're a synthetic, you figure that you can at the very least try it out without killing over and dying on the spot. At least you hope so. You lock eyes with the vending machine touchscreen pad, where a stylized, smiling face awaits your input. You know what to do. I do. But will I? You will. Any chance you could say please and ask me the proper? You make as if to reach behind your back with your hands towards your neck, absolutely disinterested in Arthur's shenanigans. Before you can even get to work prodding around for the AI's hardware attachment, however, the smiley face on the touchpad twitches for a second. Not even a blink of an eye later, and the counter at the top now shows that there's $10 whole inside the machine, enough to pay for your meal and then some. Now that's another very cool thing you wish you could do yourself, instead of relying on an unreliable AI to do the deed for you. It's definitely more convenient than carrying on a wallet or credit card for sure. There, now stop fooling around back there. I'm sensitive. You're really not. You're right, I meant sensible. Silly me, please keep it that way, thank you. You're really... screw this, let's just grab what we came for and get out of here. Make sure you type in the numbers of the snacks you desire into the touchpad and wait for the machine to do its job, pushing the items off their pedestals and onto the cold metallic floor below. The crowd gasps in shock and also realizes what just happened, but you try not to let it bother you as you conclude your transaction. You reach into the machine and grab your stuff. The packaging leaves much to be desired in both accounts, both the crackers and the energy drink looking enticing enough to make the price feel a little worth it. It's tempting to just open them up and start snacking right here and now, but you figure that you'd rather be surrounded by a few less people while you do that. You stuff your newly bought treats into your spacious yellow jacket and make as if to leave, still utterly unimpressed with the little theater going on around you. On your approach, the ever-fearful crowd parts in two like the Red Sea, giving you ample space to move around as everyone gawks, whispers, and takes photos around you. As you leave those people behind, you can't help but think about how unbelievable that whole scene really was. Never in your life would you have thought you'd reach these levels of popularity, or unpopularity, depending on how you view it. You never were really one to care about attention, not like you received it often anyway, and now that you finally tasted it in its raw, pure form, you're very glad you didn't. You're starting to feel like you're quickly turning into a celebrity, though more infamous than famous, that's for sure. Those people treat you more like an art piece than a person. Is this really how it's going to be from now on? Are you supposed to get used to this? It seems both you and the public at large still need some time to get properly accustomed to each other. Some more than others, it seems. As soon as you make it up the stairs that lead to the exit in the midst of a large gallery, surrounded by flashy stores and ad billboards, you're approached by a pair of police officers in their black and blue uniforms, walkie-talkies at the ready in their paws. The brown bear in charge gives you angry looks behind his oval glasses. He whispers all words into a small device. His eyes dart around all over the place, almost as wary of something, but he always ensures to keep you in his periphery at all times. His partner, slightly more meekly bunny, appears at first glance far less harsh than him, in both body and gaze. However, his stiff body language leaves no doubts as to his feelings towards you. You easily tower both of them from your 7 feet of carbon and metal. However, you don't find that fact very reassuring right now. You'd probably be sweating right now if you were still capable of it. You've been approached by officers on this new body before, but last time they definitely didn't have their paws hovering over their mag pistols like that. They're on edge, of that you're sure, not just because you're extremely on edge yourself. You divert your gaze from them as fast as you can and try to speed up your pace, but you hear the bear's voice beckoning you nonetheless. Hey you! You pretend you didn't hear that. It almost works until you find the bear staying right in the middle of your way. Out, his hands molded into fists hanging by his sides, his face even possibly even angrier than it was before. You spot his partner rapidly approaching from behind, looking a little upset and afraid. Perhaps due to the bear charging forward without him, and perhaps due to him charging forward at all. You truly have no time for this. Okay, maybe you do, but you certainly don't want to spend it here anyway. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. Can I just... You try to dart past the man, but he sidesteps in the way yet again. Going nowhere till we're done here, is that clear? You're lucky you don't have eardrums, or the scream would have definitely broken them. Perhaps he's a little too used to the loud noises of the mag train, because, much like the rest of the regulars here, out of curiosity you glance back towards the stairs where you came from. No good. Smaller rabbit's already there, blocking that way as well. Completely surrounded. The officer grabs your attention as he speaks once more. His tone is aggressive, mocking, unpleasant. But luckily he's a little bit quieter than before. Well. Where's this big hunk of scrap heading off to, huh? Luckily, that doesn't make him any more fun to listen to. Unluckily, you decide to feign ignorance. I'm sorry you're talking to? He's asking where you're going in such a rush. You turn your head around, surprised this time. It's the rabbit behind you who speaks, clarifying his partner's questions so you've no wiggle room to evade it. He speaks much more calmly, at the very least, but that only makes his restraint still all the more apparent. Here's that nothing you do will save you from this conversation, no matter how hard you try. They're just being upfront about what you're doing will get these offers off of you. It's reasonable enough to assume, so you think. I'm just heading Pandora Labs down in the city center, big building, lots of windows, huge crystal ball at the top of who knows what reason. You pick up the Grizzly Army by your prescription for some reason. It's just a quick visit, then it goes straight home, so... Can I go? You think that'll cut it? For a walking calculator, sure can't put 2 and 2 together. Wow. Rude. I want to know who you're meeting, what you're doing, and when too while you're at it. No one except half-assed answers. What? That's insane. That's all private information. You can't just stop me in the middle of the street and ask me for... Oh, what's this? Sounds like someone's resisting arrest, wouldn't you say so, boy? Policeman nods calmly to his partner behind you, a smug grin on his face. I'm... what now? Since when am I getting arrested? Did you lose your mind along with your manners? No. What was that? Yes, what was that? It sounded for a moment as if you were starting to stand up for yourself. You roll your eyes as you hear the AI sarcastically mock you inside your head. Now you too, can you keep quiet until this is all over? My apologies, I'll remain quiet until the officers deliver you to the police station then. Yeah, you do that until... Wait, no, they're not actually going to... That's it, you're coming with us, you little freak. Right as you're about to rebuke Arthur's taunt, you feel the rough fur of the bear's hands as he wraps it tightly around your wrist and begins pulling you somewhere. Or tries to, at least. You lay there motionless, far too heavy for him to move around. Eventually, his rabbit buddy tries to help by pushing as hard as he can, but you can't help but feel their efforts are entirely pointless, if not ridiculous. When you think about it, this whole situation's hilarious. You're an android almost twice their size, yet you're still afraid of them as if they have any power over you. They can't boss you around, they can't push you around, they can't fight you, and they can't even threaten you with any sort of consequence now, can they? Right, you've totally forgotten about that neat little thing. Maybe Arthur's right. Maybe it is time to start standing up for yourself. Yeah, more, you big fat hunk of... Suddenly, quickly, you retract your arm towards your chest, instantly freeing of the policeman's tight grasp. Woefully unprepared, the man ends up flopping on the floor butt first, staring at you with flabbergasted eyes from just a few feet away. Realizing what just happened, the bunny stops his futile attempts at moving you and just takes a few steps backward, then a few more, as you turn to face him for a second. I'm not going anywhere with you two. Not now, nor ever. Is that clear? It takes about 5 seconds for the rabbit to circle around you and help his partner back on his feet, then a couple more still to muster a response. Oh, you've done it now, fucker. You think you're getting off something small like lawyering serving the peace, huh? Resisting arrest, insulting public official, assaulting officer of the law. The bear would certainly sound more threatening if his tone didn't get higher with every meaningless accusation he throws at you. With the notes he's hitting, perhaps opera sitting was a better career choice for him. I'll see you the scrubber's listening Oh really? Gotta hand it to you. That's a long list of crimes you're accusing me of. Crimes that if I followed the news you'd know. If you follow the news, you know, I can't commit. The loud policeman makes as if to say something, but you stop him before he can even begin. Go ahead, threaten me, arrest me, wave your gun at me. Those are all meaningless temper tantrums, as you're both well aware of. As long as you wear that blue outfit, you're just a bunch of screaming lunatics to me. How dare you have no idea of... I'm leaving, with or without your approval. Now, if you'll excuse me... Without further ado, you step around the two men and begin heading toward the exit once again, trying to ignore the roaring shouts of the grizzly behind you. You feel like you've finally gotten rid of them after what feels like ages. However, just as you're about to turn a corner and lose sight of them, you hear the rabbit's voice shout at you once again. You thought the first officer's voice was loud, but clearly being noisy and annoying is a trait many in the force share. Enter code 12 Alpha 120321, cease all function activities at once. His words are fast, but you can feel the uncertainty in his voice as he spells them out loud. You turn to face him for the last time. You can perfectly see every drop of sweat stream down his neck as he realizes you're not going to heed his commands. Really? That's your last resort? For some reason I thought you were better than that. You almost laugh as the bunny's cheeks start flaring up from the embarrassment. A government-issued deactivation code for Pandora's sea grids, I assume. Give me a break. You'd never hear such a code shout out loud before, certainly not you, which is definitely lucky on your end had you heard that before. It likely would have been in the middle of an emergency of some kind. As you prepare to leave the scene, you turn to face the two officers one last time. Oh, and for the record, you gather up all your rage for one final jab at the two men who are still too stunned to talk back at you. I am not a goddamn AI, you pricks! And with that last shout, you take your leave, leaving the two stunned policemen behind, without a care in the world. After overcoming the initial shock, the bear begins to call out to you, ordering you return. You can't bring yourself to listen. He has no power over you either way. You exhale all the leftover stress through a lengthy sigh. It took a few minutes, but you're finally through with that insanity. Twice in 3 days. Is this how it's gonna be from now on? Forever? Assholes bother me every day just because they can? What do they even want from me anyway? It's like they're doing this just for shits and giggles. Worrying, perhaps. Perhaps I and my fellow AIs should start writing formal complaints about humans stealing our jobs. For once, you don't have to try too hard to ignore others' jabs. You're far too busy mulling over what just transpired to think of anything else. I still don't understand why those guys have it out for me this bad. I get that they're jerks to everybody, but what? Wouldn't they be at least a little afraid of messing with Pandora? I mean, I guess I'm not one of their employees or whatever, but shouldn't I get some sort of protection anyway, by association? I really don't know, but what to think. I was never stopped like that by an officer before when I was still human. It's like a big target in my head now, and everyone wants to take a shot. And God, I still can't believe I actually said those things to a policeman, no less. I truly hope I am as untouchable as Mary claims I am. I'm starting to think the whole New Relay Police Department has it out for me by now. It certainly is now if it wasn't before. Not saying it's your fault, of course, even though it most definitely was. Oh, shut it, you're annoying overpriced. You leave the train station just the same as you arrived, arguing with a voice inside your head that nobody else can hear. Instead of a jail or a scrapyard, perhaps you should be sent to a mental institution instead, you think. Stressed and in dire need of some rest, you leave through the building's front glass doors and take your first steps into the shining city beyond. Hopefully, as you head toward the labs, you'll find something to distract you from all these problems you're going to be running into as they wait. Alright guys, that's enough for today. I have to say I'm really fucking intrigued about this. This is actually really neat. It really is though. I guess I'll see you later.